Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 2 of TrekWrestlings.com, the Blue Chips Recruiting Podcast. I'll be your host, Eric Olanowski, and our guest today, the University of Iowa's commit, Spenser Lee. Spenser, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you on. It would be tough to go through all of your accomplishments. Your resume is so long. Let's start with that. You're done with high school right now. So what is the accomplishment that you're most proud of to look back on and say, I did that?
Oh, man. That's tough. I mean, is it an accomplishment that I'm most proud of, or like an accomplishment that is like something I'm happiest to do? It's hard for me to explain that.
Let's go with both.
All right. So I think winning my first state title when I was younger was my favorite moment in wrestling. I think that's what I was trying to get at, my favorite moment, because I took second my first 2 years. When I was 8 and 9, I took second to states, like the PGW states, and I won my first state title when I was 11. I think that was my happiest moment. I think my proudest moment would probably be me winning my this junior world title this past year, because I had to wrestle a full match and come back. So the first time I've ever done that. So I think it just showed heart. I'm just, to this day, I can't believe that I did that. I think that has to be the answer.
That was pretty cool. I did watch that live, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You just talked about taking second in state earlier in your life. For those who don't know you, one of the most gutsy performances that you're ever going to see, you going out there, and I believe it was a torn ACL that you had. Correct me. And
Yep.
You went out there and competed to the best of your ability and nothing but sportsmanship and class. But I'm sure that was one of the toughest moments of your life. I know, coming from me, I was a 2-time state runner-up before I finally got my state title, and I know those were the longest nights of my life, finally getting back to the hotel and having some time to myself and thinking about losing that state championship. Can you walk me through that night when you got back to your hotel or your house and it was just you and your thoughts?
Well, I try to stay away from being like alone, because that's when you think about like the worst kind of things. So I was with my family, and they were all, I mean, my dad was just sad because he knows how hard it was for me. I was on the mat. I was on the mat 2 times before that state tournament. It was just really hard. I just wasn't in shape. I did the best I could. I biked every morning, and it was just hard. You know, wrestling shape's completely different than Aerodyne shape. So it was just really hard for me to, wrestle a kid that, I mean, I like him. Me and him are friends. I like DeSanto. But I did tech fall the year before, so it was hard knowing that I trained in Rio and all that stuff, and I got better, to know that I lost to a kid that I tech fall. So that was hard, but nothing I can do about it. At the Pittsburgh Classic, we, me and him laughed about it, just trying to, because about both of our matches, because he gave me a silver and I gave him a silver. So we'll just move on, go to college.
And the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic was that iconic picture of you cheering for DeSantos in the corner. Like I said, sportsmanship beyond belief. But getting back to that, what do you think you learned the most about that state championship loss about yourself? Was it the grit that you had? Was it the determination just to get out there? What was it that you learned about yourself?
I just knew that I couldn't end my career in a hospital room. That's something I couldn't physically do it. I didn't want to be able to go through my life and say, could I have done this? So, I made the decision, because they told me not to wrestle. They said, you've done enough. They get it. You're hurt. I said, just get surgery, get healthy, get ready for college and next season and all that. And I said, I don't think I could live with myself if I don't wrestle, because I want to know if I could have done it. And now I know. I mean, I could have done it. That's all I wanted to know.
So looking back on that decision, do you think it was the right decision to go out there and compete? I don't regret it one bit, and I never regret it. That's great to hear.
One loss doesn't define you. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, he's washed up. He lost the match. I mean, I don't know how you can say that. I did the best I could. You know, at the end of the day, that guy wants to win too. You know, how many guys do you know go out in the match saying, man, I really hope I lose? I mean, if you find one, tell me. You should probably quit the sport.
Yeah, you're not going to find one. Let's move on to your college decision. First off, how many letters and calls and texts and your mailbox must have been full every day. Your parents probably.
Yeah. Yeah, the first day was pretty funny. I lots of calls.
Did you have to turn your phone off?
Nope. I answered every one of them.
That's good.
I just sat in my living room and talked to every coach.
Now, was there one person that called you where, you know, was someone you really looked up to growing up in the sport? Was there someone that called you that you said to yourself, man, this is really cool that so-and-so just called me. I just talked to so-and-so.
I mean, there's a lot of coaches like that. I talked to a lot of the college coaches, and they're all great. They're all great wrestlers, and they're all great coaches in their own sense. So it's hard for me to just specifically pick one out. But, I mean, obviously it's cool getting called by the, you know, all the big-name coaches and all the coaches that, you know, you hear of every day. I don't know. I mean, my dream coach when I was younger was like either a Kerry Collat or, you know, Kerry Brand. I think that's how it was because, you know, Collat was because I wanted to be like him, 4-time undefeated state champ, Pennsylvania. I watched a lot of matches with like Kerry because I want to wrestle like him. So it's kind of funny that now I'm going to be one of his athletes. But I don't know. That's a hard question. There's some amazing coaches out there, and you know, I respect every one of them. And I think it was pretty cool just to be recruited by anybody. Anyone that had the, you know, took time out of their day to call me was something that I just respected a lot. So.
One of my questions is going to be, every young kid growing up, I know for me it was a guy who wrestled at Oklahoma State who was from Virginia, Daniel Frischkorn. He was an All-American. I used to wrestle my brothers, and I would always be Daniel Frischkorn, and somebody else would be Mike Martin, who wrestled at Illinois. Did you have one person when you were growing up that were you Terry? Is that who you said you watched a lot of his matches? So I
think when I got older, it was Terry, like 8, 9. It was like Terry and Collat were like two guys were like, man, I want to wrestle like them. When I was younger, I was kind of like a history junkie, so like I was like wrestling, so like I look up to like a lot of the younger wrestlers. Like I remember watching like Bobby Weaver's match when he won his 105-pound match. He was just a goer, and like Randy Lewis, those guys just went out and they didn't care if they got scored on because you score 10 points and they're going to score 11. And so I love that mentality, putting 29 points on the board.
So let's move on to your top 5 schools. Or your top, where you went on recruiting visits? Where did you go? Did you take all 5 of your visits?
I never took any official visits besides the one to Iowa after I committed. So I took 3 visits, 3 unofficial visits. Penn State, Iowa, and Ohio State were my 3 unofficial visits.
And what was number 2 on your list? Did you have a number 2, or you went into it knowing it's Iowa all the way?
It was all 3 of those schools. It was really hard to make a decision. It came down to the day for me. So it just felt right. So they're all 3 amazing schools, and I could see myself at all 3 of those schools.
And do you remember calling or texting Coach Brands? Do you remember that initial moment when you said, Coach, I'm a Hawkeye?
I just told him, I said, like, I remember calling him and saying, hey, Coach, like, I was just, like, talking to him, and he was, like, talking to me about the recruiting process, like, hey, we're going to, keep recruiting you hard. Don't think that we're not. We're interested, like, you're a junior and all this stuff. And I was like, hey, Coach, I have something to tell you. And he's like, what's that? I was like, I'm ready to be a Hawkeye. And I just remember how excited all the coaches were.
That must be pretty memorable. And do you was it a weight lifted off your shoulders when you finally knew that you had a future somewhere, and the people who were continuing to call, continuing to send text would just finally, get the memo that, hey, I'm a Hawkeye and I'm ready to continue with my training and get back on the mat?
I think that's something I did well in the recruiting process was I made sure to tell coaches before that I wasn't going to be going to their school. So I didn't just commit. The coaches weren't like, what? We were still talking to you. You didn't even tell me. I made sure to, I literally narrowed it down to those 3 schools pretty much before I committed. Like, the other coaches weren't calling or texting me, really. Maybe 1 or 2 schools that just kind of kept talking just because, you never know, right? But that's something I would advise to other kids getting recruited, would be make sure you tell the coach. Something that I had a coach tell me that first coach I actually told no. He looked at me and he was like, Spenser. I said, yes, coach. And he said, this is our job. He goes, don't feel bad about saying no. He goes, we know a lot more than we hear yes. He goes, man up. He goes, we're tough guys. He goes, we're big boys in this business. He goes, if you don't waste our time, just tell me no. And I think that's the best recruiting advice that I think I got from a college coach about saying no, is to not baby it and feel bad like, oh, I don't want him to be upset or disappointed. If you're not going to go there, just tell him.
And what are your thoughts on? We'll use your friend Gavin Teasdale. So he commits to Iowa and now is going to Penn State. Do you think that's just a part of the game? And nowadays, especially with college coaches having the communication it's so readily available, and you can reach out to anybody nowadays. What are your thoughts on the early commitments?
I think Gavin, because he's a friend, I think that he committed too early. He didn't know what he wanted. I think that was a fault on his part. I mean, there are some guys like Yanni Giacomo who committed really early to Cornell, and he's still going there. So that's just there's good and bad to it. Obviously, you can go through pros and cons, but I mean, in my opinion, for Gavin specifically, he must have felt Penn State was the right place, and that's all that matters. As long as you personally think that you're going to the place that's best fit for you, then I'm all for it. I mean, I said earlier in an interview, with wrestling, like Tony Hager's, and I remember telling him that about Gavin and his decommitment. He asked me if that was something he thought I was a part of that. I just think that if anything, I would help him come to Iowa, but in his mind, he thought it was the best place for him, and that's really all that matters. So.
And the place for you was Iowa. What was it about Iowa that, I mean, the campus is beautiful. Sure, you were there for the Olympic trials. And Carver Hawkeye Arena is the greatest arena in the world to wrestle in, nothing like it. So what was it about Iowa that really sucked you in?
I just kind of felt like home there. I felt the same thing at Penn State as well. I'm not going to say I didn't. I had a really hard choice. And Ohio State was great too. But, obviously I could go on about how nice the campus is and all that, and the coaches and the wrestlers are, but Iowa specifically it just, like I said, it felt like home. I really got, in touch with the guys, and we all just kind of clicked. And it's not that I like the guys at Iowa better. I know everyone in Penn State's lineup almost personally, and I just liked everything about Iowa. The only thing I can describe it is it just felt like home. It was just really hard to describe that feeling. I never got that feeling anywhere else, and it just felt like the place that in my mind, I could be the most successful internationally and collegiately. So.
And I was known for for redshirting. They will take Alex Marinelli, for example, this season. They could have pulled him. What are your thoughts? Would you prefer to come and just wrestle because I know your aspirations to be an Olympic champion after, so there's no rush for you. You just want to be in there training and getting coached by the best coaches in the country. But from a preference standpoint, would you prefer to get right in the lineup and get to work, or would you like to redshirt?
I have mixed feelings on that. I'm not the biggest fan of folk style, so that's the another year of it. Kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So that might be the only, but if I'm not ready, and that's something that me and the coaches will have to talk about, then, I'm not sure. It's something we're going to have to talk about. We haven't really talked about it yet. We said that we would talk about it when I got there. No need to stress about it now. Just get healthy, worry about my knee getting healthy after ACL surgery, and getting back into, the swing of things when I get there. So I really don't know. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of folk style. I love freestyle, but, can't help what can't be helped.
And you touched on getting healthy. Other than health-wise, from a technique standpoint, what improvements need to be made from now until you get on campus?
I just think I need to keep being a student of the sport, keep watching wrestling, keep learning, even if I can't be on the mat. Focus on strength. I need to get a little bigger for college. Just listening to what the coach is telling me and doing it to the best of my ability until I get there and they can personally tell me it. So,
a couple questions before I let you go. One of them is, who was the best recruiter that wasn't a coach or that wasn't tied to a program? It might have been a friend. It might have been a friend's dad or mom calling you saying, hey, come here, come there. Who was the best recruiter that wasn't tied to a program?
I wasn't tied to a program, so they had no bias.
None.
Oh, Jesus. I think everyone kind of had somewhat of a bias. Honestly, it was probably my dad. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
My dad made my recruiting process H-word. Because his mindset was, I'm going to tell you the best about everything about the program. And I'm going to tell you the worst about everything of the program. And he had no preference. I asked him, what would you think about blah, blah, blah? And he would just tell me it flat out as blatantly and bluntly as possible. And then sometimes I think he's leaning one way, and the next thing you know, he drops a fact that just totally throws me out of the loop. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, what do you want? He's like, this isn't my decision. This is your decision. So, and I think he was the least biased because, I had no idea what was going in his mind. I was like, do you want me to go to Ohio State? Do you want me to go to Penn State? Do you want me to go to Ohio? I didn't know because he would just get facts. They have this. They have this. This is not good. Stuff like that. It was just, it'd definitely be my father because there was no one else. Everyone had kind of a little bit of a bias. They tried to hide it. It's hard when you really love a program to say something bad about it. And my dad was the bearer of bad news, you could say.
What was the best part about the recruiting process? What did you really like about the recruiting process?
I think the best part was having different people reach out to you that would have never reached out to you before, and meeting new people. I met the athletic director at, Ohio State. I talked because I want to be an athletic director, so that was really cool. That was one of the coolest things that I did, just because of how high of a position he is in, and just hearing him talk and seeing where I might be in a few years and stuff like that. Like I said, just having people talk to you that would never talk to you before. I think that was the coolest thing.
And I'll
trying to get you to go to the program.
And I'll end it with this last question. I know you said telling coaches no was some advice you would give, but what is the one thing besides that you would really say to these young wrestlers out there that are being recruited? What would you say to them to take advantage of the recruiting process?
Take advantage of it.
What advice would you have for them for the recruiting process?
just enjoy it. I feel as if I committed too early. So I didn't take my official visits. Because, I think you could take official visits now as a junior, which would have been nice for me. Because, let's say I wanted to go visit Stanford. I live in Pennsylvania. I got to fly there and pay for it. So I think you should just not commit so early. I think you just need to enjoy the process. You only get recruited one time. Well, I guess you could get recruited again after you graduate and people want regional training centers and such. But that's not the same as colleges recruiting you, wanting you to go on those 5 official visits. So that's something I probably would have changed. I wanted to commit early because I wanted the coaches that I said no to be able to recruit my weight class. But that was out of respect. But
well, Spenser, I want to thank you for taking your time out of your night to sit down and talk with us. Where can our fans follow you on social media?
I have Twitter and I have Instagram.
Okay, and we will make sure to post those on Track Wrestling so you can go follow Spenser after we post this interview. For all those that aren't following Track Wrestling, you can go on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Track Wrestling. Make sure you give us a follow. For Eric Olanowski, I want to thank you once again, Spenser Lee, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck when you head to the University of Iowa. Congratulations on everything. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.